Good morning once again, Namibia, and a very warm welcome to the Government Information Center studio. This time around, I am joined in the studio by a team of well-versed representatives, and they are here to shed more light on today's discussion. But as is the norm, I'd like to pause here and extend a warm invitation to you, Namibia, to be part of this discussion by following the conversation on our social media platforms, where we are currently streaming the show live. Now on Facebook, we are at Ministry of Information and Communications Technology. Or alternatively, you can stream us live on our YouTube channel, and our handle there is MICT Namibia. Be part of the conversation by posting your questions, your statements, or contributions on our social media platforms. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome my studio guest for this morning. I am joined on my immediate left. I'm joined by Ms. Julie Clevenden. I hope I didn't pronounce it
perfect.
Right. Welcome, Ms. Clevenden, to the GIC.
Thank you.
And then I'm joined by a gentleman in the studio to balance the situation, is Dr. Simalumba.
Thank you, Eleni.
Good morning, Doctor. Welcome to the GIC.
Good morning to the audience.
Right. Now, Ms. Clevenden, as we break the ice of this conversation, I'd like to find out from you, for the benefit of our viewers and our listeners that are watching from home or elsewhere, briefly give us just a quick foundation of how these initiatives started. We are talking Edu-Conservation, so we just want to know what it is that it entails.
Okay, so thank you, Helene. So Edu-Conservation is a Pan-African education conservation program, basically bringing conservation, positive conservation messaging to children in schools. And before I go into depths about what it actually entails, I just want to say that it was founded by Sabina Plattner African Charities, by Mrs. Sabina Plattner,
yes,
who was rather herself a teacher, a school teacher. And she's always been of the opinion that the only thing that can improve or change the world is education. And she is very committed to conservation in Africa. And she was at a conference, an IUCN conference in 2014.
Okay.
And she was one of the keynote speakers. And she actually said at that conference, if conservationists want to make any difference in conservation, they really need to be talking to the school learners in Africa. And with that, she founded Edu-Conservation in collaboration with another organization called Leadership for Conservation in Africa. So that's really the backstory of this conservation program, or education conservation program.
Absolutely, we're rounded off. Thank you so much, Ms. Clevenden. Now, Doctor, when I read through this concept note, I've come to realize that something that it was of great essence is collaboration. How has collaboration with the National Institute for Education Development shortly neared? How has and other local education partners influenced the development of the Teachers Toolkit? Because I understand there is a Teachers Toolkit that was curated in Namibia.
Yeah, everything started some years ago. We do have what we call Namibia Environmental Education Network, where all NGOs, agencies, in the field of environmental education, we network or we gather. So it's on this basis that we even came up with what we call ESD policy, which touches on environmental issues. In that ESD policy, which was developed through a consultative process, we identified a lot of environmental issues, which are a priority to Namibia. So it was easier out of those priority areas to direct, to feed in the process of Edu-Conservation as a project.
Okay.
And again, we gained more experience by working together with many others. Teachers were trained through NADIT, also Namibia Desert Research Foundations, and many other projects. So which means we are like a family in environmental education sphere. So all of us, we contributed our own experiences and expertise to bring forth what we have today as a contribution to Edu-Conservation project.
All right.
Yes.
All right, Doctor. Thank you. Now, Ms. Clevenden, I'd like to find out from you. Edu-Conservation is currently focusing on primary school phases. Why is this group important in the meantime, and why is it the main target, if I can just put it that way, and why was Africa chosen instead of other continents?
Yes, a good question. We focus on the primary school age because research has shown that young children are naturally pro-conservationists, and we need to nurture that pro-conservation attitude that they have. They naturally have a pro-conservation attitude.
Absolutely.
So it's like anything. It's like literacy, numeracy. It's good to put those foundations down at an early age, and we want to nurture their pro-conservation attitude. So that's really why we've chosen the primary school age. Not to say that we won't ever look at the high school stage, but it would be quite a different approach. And then your second part of your question, why Africa? Well, I think I touched on that in the beginning.
Slightly, yes.
Mrs. Plattner, she may be from Germany, but she's really has always had a deep love for Africa. And a lot of her work started in the Republic of Congo, actually, around the rainforests. And then, of course, she decided that actually she needed to look further in education across Africa.
All right. Doctor, would you like to expand on that?
Yes, as she has just indicated, the issue of primary, the foundation phase, is critical if we want behavioral change. And when we talk about conservation or sustainable use of resources, it is something which has to do with mindset change of the people. So the more we can lay foundation on area or foundation grades, the better these learners will have environmental awareness and knowledge and the skills as they progress in education, so we can build on those. So that's why we started on the foundation.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Doctor, I've come to realize it was mentioned that we are part of the countries on the African continent that this program or this initiative is being, facilitated in, if I may put it that way. Who are the other nations apart from Namibia that are forming part of the list?
Would you like me to answer?
Yes, you can
yes,
please proceed.
Sorry, Lenny.
Yes.
So we have 6 countries in total. So we have Morocco, up North Africa. We have Senegal. We have Gabon, Republic of Congo, Rwanda, and Namibia.
All right.
So just very briefly, I'll tell you very briefly, Gabon, Republic of Congo, around the rainforests, and you know that's the second largest rainforest in the world next to the Amazon, so it's important. But specifically for Namibia, Namibia is
semi-arid?
Yes, semi-arid, but that's not really the reason. So, we're working with a diverse array of countries, and I think for us, Namibia has really got strong policies around the protection of the environment, which translates into their education policies, which is fantastic. So in a way that helps us to learn from Namibia as well, because ultimately what we want to do is we want Edu-Conservation to go across the continent. So the pilot is about us learning from their countries as well as, they benefiting from us. So it's really a mutual thing. And yes, as I said, I'm in awe of what Namibia does in terms of environmental protection and how it translates into the education department,
Absolutely. Because now I couldn't help but wonder, when I'm looking at the other countries that you've indicated, the other 5 nations that the program is running in, I couldn't help but wonder the other nations are quite kind of their rainfall is more than that of Namibia, and ours is a semi-arid.
Exactly. So there's that as well.
Okay. No, I think I'm sure that us Namibians are putting it to good use, and because we need to plant so many trees in this country, as it is known, we have a dry country, but I think it may be changing soon, given the more plants that we plant, I think the more rains we'll receive. All right. And now, Doctor, back to you. I'd like to find out, many schools across Africa face challenges such as limited access to technology. How does Edu-Conservation adapt to or address these kinds of barriers in the classrooms? Because it is a thing, right?
Yeah, what we did, and that's the case even in East Namibia, not all schools are connected, not schools, they've got access to internet, in other words. So the approach to the project is that some materials are printed for schools which are in rural areas. But again, the materials will be available electronically and downloaded. So they can use their smartphones, for example, to download teachers and they print worksheets and other things which they need to use. But specifically in Africa, we are now engaged in a project which is the result of the 2022 National Conference on Education, where we talk about digital transformation.
Right.
We roll out certain things to schools in the rural area, which is beneficial. And I hope so also learning from COVID, many countries is taken into consideration. Digital transformation is one of the levers of change to improve educational outcome.
Absolutely.
But we do both for those without connectivity and those with connectivity.
All right. And now, Doctor, I'd like to find out, because I know that there may be so many challenges that you would be faced, or the teachers would be faced with, especially the ones that in the rural areas. Now, I'm trying to just find out, on the grassroots levels, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered to reach to these schools? Or how is the sample? Is it only in the cities, or are we talking about in the remote areas as well? I'd like to find out what some of the challenges you have encountered.
No, currently the samples covers a lot of locations and areas.
Okay.
Urban, semi-urban, and rural areas.
All right.
So that the kit and the material becomes relevant themselves. So some of a few challenges which are there are not such big, because, for example, in the kit, some basic instruments we put in the kit in order to accord teachers the opportunity to carry out some practical initiatives on school level, do not necessarily require electricity and other things.
Right.
In order to look for on things like, recycling, reuse, decomposition, all those kind of things. Compost manuring, tree plantings, they don't need. That's what they can. And then the good thing with the rural area is that there can be connectivity between the school to the communities. This is where we talk about indigenous knowledge systems, which is preserved, better way to do things. And when we talk about animal corridors and the parks, those are in most cases in rural areas. So knowledge of that, they benefit. But we can bring realities also from the rural area into the city by using technology, visuals. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor, for that. Now, Ms. Clevenden, let's now shift gears to Teachers Toolkit. What exactly are they in a layman's term?
Okay.
When I say a Teachers Toolkit, we are speaking Edu-Conservation. What exactly are we implying?
First of all, I'm going to give you a bit of a visual. Okay. So it's a physical box, and inside the box is a teacher's guide. Okay. And inside the guide are lesson plans. Okay. So and these lesson plans are classroom ready. So the teacher can take the lesson plan and implement that lesson into the classroom. And we don't try to create new areas for the curriculum. We find the best place that our lessons will fit into the curriculum. So there isn't a specific subject, environmental education. The lesson plan could fit into the literacy curriculum, so like an English storybook,
right?
With about litter or something like that.
Okay.
Okay, so there's those lesson plans that have a natural fit in the existing curriculum, and across all subjects, could be in maths, could be wherever it could be, and then they have resources that go with it. So you were speaking about Namibia being an arid country,
Yes.
Semi-arid,
Yes.
and we would have things that are relatable to that. So for instance, we collaborate for a long time with the experts in this country, and then we put together something that is Namibian and meets the needs of Namibia. So we'd have like an ostrich eggshell to demonstrate how water can be transported or whatever it fits into our whole lesson. We have a plastic water pump that kids can pump water and they can see how the water's pumped up. So, you know, it's all about what is relevant to Namibia. I mean, even in our storybooks, if we talk about litter and we have litter trucks in the storybook, the illustrators have drawn the litter trucks that look like the rubbish trucks that you would find in Windhoek or wherever, you know, or the taxis look like the taxis would look here. Or how the teacher's dress would be the same. So it's very localized, that kit. So that is the kit. If you can physically picture that. The other question I wanted to address was, you said, what are some of the challenges?
Yes.
And I think some of the challenges are that children, very young children, are still not really proficient in English, and they should be taught in their native language or their local language, and you have many, like we have in South Africa, for instance. And I think what's really great about the kit is it's very visual. So there's a lot of pictures, there's a lot of brightness, there's a lot of interactivity. So sometimes that transcends the language barrier as kids become more proficient in learning English.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
Ideally, we would like to translate, especially the junior primary and the pre-primary into the local languages, KKNG and all of them. But we're getting there. We actually do have a translation at the moment, but we haven't published that as yet. Yeah.
All right. That would have actually been my next question to you, whether there is a possibility of translating in local, you know, indigenous languages to ensure that even those that don't understand English or do not have the, you know, English as a medium of instruction can still partake in this very important project.
Yes. Well, as I said, young kids, they're still not at that, you know, completely literate age. So we actually found that the teachers, we have a translation ready, but we actually found the teachers are using our resources to get kids more comfortable with English anyway.
Absolutely.
And so in the kit we'll have the different kinds of resources we'll have are like animal and plant cards. So that won't all be in English. All around it will have all the different languages of what animal this is and what plant this is in the local languages.
Okay.
So there's that as well. And I wish I'd bought a toolkit to show you. They're beautiful. You'll have to come and have a look.
All right. No. I think next time when you come, when we invite you back to the GIC, you will most definitely bring it with.
Oh, yes. I'll bring you one.
All right.
Sorry, so Helene, can I just say one other thing on the technology side?
Yes, please.
So in a lot of countries, and rural areas in some countries, in the rural areas, they don't have electricity. So they wouldn't probably have access to a projector or a screen or something like that. So we have in our toolkits very large format posters that are very colourful, that they can hang on walls, so that's colourful. But what we also have is something called a fibre screen. And the fibre screen is we can imagine like carpet material, and then we have images that form part of the lessons. So as you would go along, as you would with a digital projector, moving through a story or moving through a lesson, we have these printed on cards, and they've got Velcro on the back, so the teacher can put it up and show them and go through it like that. So if you're showing the life cycle of an earthworm or whatever, or the growing of a bean, you'll have all of them like that, and the kid would go and put it onto this fibre screen. So we're overcoming challenges like that with the types of resources in the kit.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Ms. Cleventon. That is very highly appreciated. Now, Namibia, if you are just tuning in, you are tuned into an information sharing session. As always, we are coming to you live and direct from the Government Information Center studio. For this Monday morning, second edition of an information sharing session, we are talking Edu-Conservation, and I'm joined in the studio by a team of well-versed representatives, and they are here to shed more light on Edu-Conservation. Now, you too can be part of this discussion by following the conversation on our social media platforms, where we are currently streaming this show live. Now, on Facebook, we are at Ministry of Information and Communications Technology, or alternatively, you can stream us live on our YouTube channel, and our handle there is MICT Namibia. I'm keen to hear from you as to what contribution you would like to add to this, important session that we are having this morning. And back to our discussion here in the studio. Ms. Cleventon, I want to stick with you. I'd like to find out, in Gabon, the president has apparently, awarded the learners that did exceptionally well. Is there something like this for Namibia in the pipeline?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Dr. Simulumba. But it wasn't the learners. It was actually in each country.
Okay.
We have a country coordinator that's obviously local.
Okay.
And then we have 4 expert collaborators who we develop the toolkits with.
All right.
And for instance, in Namibia, we have 4 as well. And we walk that journey with them.
Okay.
We speak every week and develop every week. And in Gabon, our 4 collaborators there were awarded medals of recognition by the president for their contribution to producing this these toolkits with us for environmental education. So maybe our expert collaborator is going to be, I'm not sure, but you'll have to ask Dr. Simulumba.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cleventon. Doctor, you on the spot now.
No, we are not there. Maybe in the future.
Not there yet.
Yes, because this is very important. It's like, climate action project. So it's very important. Maybe in future we'll think about that.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's something that I think would actually, make those that are lacking, pull up their socks and make a better contribution, you see?
You mean the children or the adults?
The adults, because they are now I'm of the understanding that they are being awarded through the work that they are doing.
Yes, with Edu-Conservation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, Doctor, back at you. I'd like to find out. I think we briefly touched on this one about the piloted in 6 countries, the project being piloted in 6 countries. That one is clear, but is there perhaps any room for further spreading on the African continent? Because at the moment we are in 6 countries.
Yeah, that will depend, I think. Julie will answer on that one.
Okay.
Yes, because it's more from the project.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, but for now, I think Namibia is on board.
Right.
Depending on how we'll push, I think maybe other countries will be motivated to come on board.
Ms. Cleventon?
Yes, we're busy developing a strategy about our expansion. I mean, so it would be the saturation in each of the countries that we're in now, and it would be how much further we'd go through Africa. And I think for me, the immediate next steps in Namibia for expansion would be to take the kits that we've already developed, pilot them, revise those kits to improve them, and then spread them to more schools. We've committed to that.
Okay.
As Dr. Simulumba was saying, we also have an online resource portal where all these materials will be put on and freely downloadable, not only by Namibian teachers, but by the teachers across Africa.
Right.
So that's immediate next steps. And I think for the project itself, yes, I think we definitely want to go to more countries. But also, I think in countries where the policy is not so strong, we want to influence policy and advocate for, and really have a really strong advocacy program for environmental education in the existing school curricula. So it's, so that it's part of children's everyday learning life, that environmental education is there, because it's such an important challenge that the world faces. I mean, climate change, etc. Yeah.
All right. Now, Ms. Cleventon, I am sticking with you. I am of the understanding that currently we are at the pilot phase here in Namibia.
Yeah, correct.
Now, I want to find out from you, once the pilot phase is completed here in Namibia, what then is next?
Yeah, so I actually probably answered a bit in advance, but what I was saying, we would take those kits, and revise them based on the evaluation.
All right.
So, for instance, I said, I'm not sure if you know, but we did the pre-primary and the junior primary first.
Yes.
Okay, and now we've piloted that, and we've got a very long report on that, which includes evaluation by external parties, and that's something that we will present to the Minister of Education today, Honourable Mrs. Steenkamp. And on those findings of the first pilot and the first 2 toolkits that we produced, first 2 unique toolkits, we are revising them, improving them, and then the next step is to take them to more schools, to at least another 120 schools through Namibia.
Okay.
And then after that, some further strategizing with the minister and others, and the other pilot schools and others in Africa, and the foundation and everything, and then we will see how much further we can go.
Okay. So safely then we can say you do see the potential of the project being rolled out to more schools in Namibia.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. We are coming to the end of our brief discussion here at the GIC, but I want to find out, Doctor, I'd like to find out from you. Having, we don't usually, as should I say, as Africans or as Namibia, for example, because we hardly ever plant trees. And now we have these new initiatives that are coming up. We are teaching learners from as young as pre-primary. What do you foresee Namibia to, potentially grasp from this great initiative?
I think through this project we instill the values for tree planting, for example. Awareness, care, and concern for our own environment. So which means learners will be able to do so, not only at school, but at home.
Absolutely.
Yes, because they learn how to take care of the water system, how to take care the air, the land, the biophysical, which is, the biodiversity, which is to do with insects, trees, and all others. The spirit of interrelationship,
between
living, non-living, human beings, animals, is instilled in the learners, so that they can know that a snake is not just dangerous,
right,
but there is something out of it.
Okay.
So they learn this through all those stories, simple storybooks, which they have. But as I said from the beginning, is that it's also an opportunity to preserve our own culture and indigenous knowledge systems.
Absolutely.
In terms of our relationship with the natural environment.
All right. Now, Ms. Cleventon, you've earlier on mentioned that we would, of course, translate into indigenous languages on a later stage, of course. Is there a possibility to also translate into Braille? Because this is a community that oftentimes feel left out in initiatives such as that.
I'll be very honest with you. We haven't discussed that at this point in the stage of the project. We're getting the pilots out, getting the basic content out first, making sure that we have the right content for the right country.
Okay.
Because it's very localized. Each country is very different to the other. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Ms. Cleventon. We've almost come to the end of our discussion. Before I round up, I'd like to accord you this opportunity just to have your final remarks.
Actually, I was listening to Dr. Simulumba's last remark, and I think it always resonated very deeply what he said. And I often think to myself, if I had had the environmental education in my everyday life at school, what would my actions be today as an adult?
Okay.
And I think if you, as a teacher, if you think about all the stuff that you're teaching your kids in the classroom, if you had had that, how differently would have you been behaving today? So it's food for thought, I think we're doing our kids a great service. I shouldn't say this, but we often, as adults, get blamed for messing up the planet. I think we're doing a good job now by trying to rectify that by good education.
Absolutely. Doctor, you have the final word for this
Yeah,
morning.
I'll say that we are very much excited about the project being introduced because teachers can benefit through continuous professional development training, and learners can learn in a funny and simple ways through active learning methods, hand-on activities, and also I should indicate that we'll benefit as a country because we will learn from experiences of others in the projects. We are not just one, but as mentioned earlier, there are other countries which we collaborate in the project. And I should indicate here that Namibia as a nation, we will always be a role model. Yes.
I like that. All right. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Ms. Clevenden, so
Lily.
much for gracing us with your presence this morning. Thank you for talking to us about Edu-Conservation. I am sure that the Namibian nation is ready to, roll with this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eleni.
Thank you, Namibia.
All right. Namibia, that is all the time we had for this morning's briefing on Edu-Conservation. Please do join us again tomorrow as we bring you another fruitful discussion here at the GIC. From myself, Heleni Felipe Samunyela, and the entire GIC production crew, until next time, take care.